Hello.
So always a pleasure to address fellow chartered accountants, and I am given 1 hour, and this was supposed to end at 4. So I speaking on ethics, I ask permission whether I can continue till 4:10 or should I end at 4 p.m. 4 बजे ठीक है. So officially 4:10, unofficially as per request and demand from the members 4 p.m. Fine. I'll keep it till 4:05. Simple. And we've been speaking on ethics. Just before that, how many of us have been peer reviewers in this room? Practically all of them. Then actually I am at a loss कि मैं क्या बात करूँ to people who already know what it is. So it's something when we start an audit, it's SA 315, understanding the risk by knowing the entity and its environment. So before you speak with the audience, you need to know the audience, how many are peer reviewers. So technically उनसे क्या बात करें जो उनको पता नहीं है, या something new. What's your value addition? And I always say, and this is my experience over the past 40 years since I'm in the profession, 37 years of post qualification, that the gap is not in the knowing, the gap is in the doing. The gap is not in the knowing, the gap is in the doing. As chartered accountants, when we are saying compliance and the topic compliance with ethical standards, we know what is compliance, is adherence to ethical standards, is compliance with our ethical standards is principally adhering to the code of ethics. Now here comes the problem. Now in our times when we were doing our articleships in the 80s, the gap was in the knowledge itself, because information was scarce. So you had to look up to the libraries and collect information and then analyze, evaluate, and then present it. In years that followed, in the late 90s, with the advent of the internet, information or knowledge began to be accessible more easily. And in the 2020s now, we have knowledge which is available at the click of a prompt. So there's no dearth of knowledge. So awareness is not the issue at times, but awareness is also the issue at times. And if you ask other than peer reviewers, if you go to firms and ask them when it's adherence to the standards of auditing, how many standards of auditing are there, I really doubt how many would be able to give the correct answer. In fact, I was speaking at a seminar on bank branch audit and asked this question, and hardly anybody raised his hand to answer. I had addressed a seminar on code of ethics. At that time, there were mandatory 2 CPRs which were needed. I won't name the branch. There were 400 registrations and only 20 turned up. So 380 would have got the CPRs. I really don't know that was ethics or not. So ethics is voluntary, something which should come within, it's internal for me. The very ethos of our profession is pride of service before personal gain. So how many of you really imbibe that and carry it up your sleeve? Is a pride of service before personal gain, a partner in nation building, we always have the motto song at the start, someone who's awake when all others are sleeping. So are we really following those principles in real spirit? And we are speaking on the code of ethics. And I feel the biggest problem with our profession is, and this is across, because of my experience of speaking across the country, and when we are speaking in Bombay, we are speaking to an audience or a professional at a different level of excellence or expertise or experience. A lot of our audit reports, on the basis of which the peer review arrangements are done or assignments are done or the evaluation is done, and the biggest risk is they are cut pasted. I don't know how many of you would have noticed that it's maybe we change the year if there's a qualification, unless the format of the audit report has changed, the year is changed. If there is a qualification, that qualification is inserted, maybe some new para on a KM will be there, or something would necessitate an EOM or OM. Rest, primarily it's cut pasted, and that's where is the root cause, because we say two things mainly in the auditor's report. One, we conducted our audit in accordance with the standards of auditing, and one is we adhered to the code of ethics. So if you are a peer reviewer, I don't know how many would have asked the first question to an auditee firm or whoever is, as far as SQC1 is concerned, or now which replaced by the two other standards from 1st April which we just listened, SQS, SQM 1 and 2. Who's the leader, who's the quality reviewer, whoever is the SPOC coordinating with you, how many standards of auditing are there, and if I get the right answer, it's fine, I still need to check. But if I don't get an answer or I get a wrong answer, I need to know that I need to check much more. The next is I complied with the code of ethics. Again, code of ethics of which year, which edition, and how many sections of the code of ethics are there. And that's the biggest problem. We have complied with the 2020 code of ethics, which is the 12th edition, which complies with the IASBA 2018 edition, and now the 13th edition, there is a exposure which has been out on public domain. The last date for comments is over. We are awaiting the final draft. That's based on the IASB 2024 edition. Now it's in 3 parts, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Volume 3 again a lot of changes, we'll see that. But that has 100 to 1900 sections. Now 900 sections in code of ethics, and I should ethically, with integrity, make a submission that I also would not have read the 900 sections. I really don't know how many peer reviewers would have completely read it, because we all used to fast reading right from our CA study days. And again, with the standards of auditing, 38 standards of auditing, with all the pages, we would normally read all the things which are in bold, in between the lines, and what's really needed is really not read. So if you have an NFRA sitting on the left hand side with this is the standard, or this is your code of ethics, this is what is required, and okay, you have not done it, whatever is the documentation issue. And we again don't document at the speed of our work. If you don't document at the speed of work, somewhere or the other, I think there would be a gap, or we would be lagging behind the documentation. So yes, given the fact that in spirit, whether we really adhere to the standards of auditing or whether we really adhere to the code of ethics, when we actually state that in our audit report and we basically sign it with a UDIN, I think that's where the gap is. And that's the difference between spirit and the letter. And in this case, the gap at times is also in the knowing, because we haven't read it completely, the gap is in the knowing also. So yes, let's discuss this forward. What is ethics? Either a system of moral principles guiding behavior, what is right or wrong, good conduct based on values and reasoning, philosophical study of morality, internal principle, character, choices, habits, action, beliefs, a codified action, reasoned principle. Finally, it's all about honesty, respect, compassion, fairness, selflessness, responsibility. In spirit, here we are looking at two aspects: as a peer reviewer and as a CA firm in practice whose assignment we are doing. And we as a peer reviewer also would be wearing the hat where we would be reviewed by somebody. So I think a matter of reflection is, are we really complying with the principles of ethics in the real spirit of the word that it means? Now there could be various challenges, we could again discuss, brainstorm, but are we really doing that? Now 5 fundamental principles, I think everyone knows this, but yes, we could recap, we could discuss, someone would have a different take on this. Integrity is being straightforward, it's being honest, it's being truthful, and it's fair dealings. Again, we'll have the conflicts of interest here. Can we really afford to be straightforward? Again, matters of independence will come here. Various cases, we all know, and this is the bank audit season, you pass an MOC, next year you don't get the audit. So, calling a spade, being straightforward will also have its issues, depends how firm you are in your stand. Honesty is the key. It's not just being honest, it's the commitment to be honest at all times. Being truthful and dealings which are fair. Objectivity is lack of bias, no undue influence. It's going by facts, evidence, logic, and no personal prejudices, no personal opinions, no conflict of interest. Again, we have had a detailed discussion on the independent status. And are we really independent? Again, a $1 million question. Client fees there are. Maybe there could be rules if 15% or 40% or whatever of the fees comes from one client, then you are not supposed to be independent, whatever that percentage is. Irrelevant, because maybe that's a codified law. But this is all we need to internally ask ourselves, can we really be independent? I was also in service and a chief audit executive. I never used to report to the CEO. I used to report to the audit committee of the board. But that was a functional reporting. The administrative reporting was to the CEO. Now, can I be independent when my administrative reporting is to somebody? So, independence in mind, independence in spirit, different issue which maybe at our intellectual level or our seniority we can really reflect and look inwards, see whether we really objective. Then is the question of professional competency and due care. So attain, maintain and update requisite skill levels and acting with diligence. Now what skill levels do I really need? Maybe in my case, when I looked inward, I may have technical skills, and all chartered accountants would have technical skills, and those technical skills may need updation. So there will be a learning, unlearning, relearning process as far as technical skills are needed, because laws and regulations keep on changing. Question is, what about other skills? What about your mental toughness? What about your adversity skill? Because if you got to be straightforward, you got to withstand pressure. So there are threats of, we'll see the threats, the self of intimidation. And whoever is doing a bank audit, the moment he passes an MOC, you will meet the GM straight, and he'll put pressure on why the MOC should not be passed. So part and parcel of our life. So one of the qualities we should have is being courageous, being bold. Easier said than done if you are at the early stages of your career and you have taken some loans or there is a responsibility. So things are good on.
It's not really possible, with the emotions in professional is also having some emotions.
I agree, but
How can you,
let's discuss that. Yes, so but skill levels, what's the skill requirement that would need? I would say for a lot of professionals at a senior level, it's more of the trust and the rapport you build with the clients. And if you have built that trust and the rapport, in a lot of cases the clients will come to you with problems. This is the problem I have, what could be the solution? Because they know that you will not harm their interest. You would take everyone's interest and give a solution which would be a win-win to all. So going to that stature and building that trust, rapport, that confidence is another skill which we all need to learn. So when you're talking of competency, it's not just the technical skills, and I feel in today's world the technical skills are at a level, you need the social skills, you need the adversity skills, you need the soft skills, you need a lot more skills to stay relevant. Again, relevancy is another word. What is relevancy? Again, a lot of subjective words, as you see, a lot of emotions come in when you are also taking the issue of objectivity, confidentiality. Again, with the DPDP Act coming and with the harsh penalty which would come in, it's a matter of time, May 27, when this act will come in force operationally. They've already established the DPDP board. They'll set up the regulations 12 months down the line, somewhere in November 26. And in May 27, 6 months down the line, it will be operational. A huge challenge for organizations and a different level at which we may need to work. And again, new laws on regulations where we'll need to learn, unlearn, relearn. Again, let's wait for the time to come, because when it's coming from May 27, when do we generally wake up? June 27, when it's already hit us. So COVID was an example. We had the issue somewhere in December in China. Jan, it looked like it would spread. Feb, it had spread. March, it was in our doors. And April, maybe we were all banging our thalis outside, then really acting. So historically, we have always acted post the UDIN certifications. I spoke on UDIN in one conference in 2019, outskirts of Mumbai, and half of the audience didn't know that something like UDIN existed. So again, at times awareness is also a key. When Mahokaro was there, Mahokaro continued for many years, even after it was abolished and Karo came in. Even now you get certificates from auditors without UDINs. So then it comes to what is professional competency and due care. And here, I would specifically like to take something between negligence and gross negligence. Gross negligence is something we just can't have a misconduct which is reckless, careless, complete disregard for laws, rules, regulations. But negligence, something which is done without intent. And let's say you have, by genuine mistake, overlooked something. It could be a violation of an accounting standard. It could be of some law. The question is, are you in trouble? And the legal framework for negligence is, firstly, was there a duty of care? Yes, there was a duty of care because we are bound by our standards, we are bound by our code of ethics, and we state so in our audit report that we are bound by it and we have conformed with it. So we are confirming we are doing something and there's a breach of duty somewhere, whether not serious. Again, we are talking of the concept of materiality, and materiality is something which is not just as to a transactional amount, it's also to a classification, presentation and disclosure. So classification is incorrect, a presentation is incorrect, a disclosure is incorrect or not done. If it affects the economic decision of the user of those financial statements, that's considered material. And the primary requisite of negligence is, to prove there is a negligence, is there was a loss, harm or damage caused to the petitioner or whoever is making the complaint or any user. So the key here is whether any of your omission or commission causes any harm, damage, loss, misstatement. And you have another concept which is come in about 3 years back called NOCLAR, non-compliance with laws and regulations, vis-a-vis SA 250. And NOCLAR widens our responsibility to areas where it is causing public harm. So the intent of our regulators is very clear, is that wherever there is a public interest at stake, especially in organizations which, like financial institutions, any of the banks, the insurance companies, the mutual funds, the broking companies, or any of those listed companies where there are public investments substantially, I think that's where We have the competency issue, confidentiality issue again will come up with the DPDP Act coming in, and professional behavior. Very subjective. I think if there is some workshop which needs to be done, or some session, 2-hour session needs to be done, it's something on professional behavior where we teach people professional etiquettes, professional manners, when to speak, when not to speak, how to speak, what to speak.
It has already happened to our same profession. Already in the past, we all know, so professional behavior, is very important, but then that depends on each one of us.
So it depends on every one of us. So while you may not generalize and someone would be highly evolved, the question is, has it spread across all the 3.5 lakh chartered accountants who are there? And out of, let's say, a lakh plus chartered accountants who may be in practice, are we at the uniform level as professional behavior is concerned? So someone sitting in the remote village of a UP who's a chartered accountant in practice, would he have the same professional behavior, or maybe the dressing A code? Is there a dress code on how one should dress in public or how one should speak in public? I think very important as far as maintaining the professional reputation of, and while we chartered accountants would be much better than some other professions if we compare ourselves with advocates, where you see the topmost advocate in the country and you see someone who's practicing in a metropolitan magistrate court who's standing outside the court and rushing to ask for work. I think there's a lot of huge gap. This gap is not there in chartered accountants, but yes, there is work needed to be done here. Then the threats to personal integrity, and this which we all know, but I'll just take it. Self-interest. Everyone has a self-interest. A personal or a financial interest would be there. How does one balance a personal or financial interest with the ethics? So there have been practical cases where clients have approached us that we'll give you the audit, but you should not qualify. Now, even before you get the audit, if you've been told not to qualify, I think it's a huge red flag for you not to accept the audit. Or there have been cases where there was a CA firm retiring because of some issues in a listed company, and when it came to us, they offered us the audit. It was a complete evaluation as per the letter of the law in our firm, whether we should take up the assignment or not. The question is, whatever reasons the earlier firm has resigned, if it's known to us, it's fine, we'll look into it. If the management tells us it's fine, but we will look at it afresh from our own risk perspective. So the one is, if your independence is not affected, I think it's fine. And I just, when someone says, again, it's a question which someone can debate कि emotions है, thoughts है, feelings है, responsibility है, तो independence कैसे maintain कर सकते हैं? But I've been only inspired by, I think there was one movie of Amitabh Bachchan, I think, where वो अपना resignation letter खीसे में लेके ही चलता था. So if there's something, an issue, just simply resign. वो अपना क्या प्रॉब्लम है? So let the government do his audit, or let the government take a call on it. Why should we be worried? See, I'll tell you. Okay, hold on. Huh. So hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Responsibility किसका है? SEBI या MCA का है? Let them do their job. Period. In one case, we were statutory auditors of a foreign bank, and they had issues with their expat salaries, and this issue came out in the newspapers in the Economic Times. And then we asked the bank, कि भाई ये क्या है? They said we will not disclose. It's confidential. I said I can't help it. If you tell me, I'll continue. Otherwise, I'm resigning right away. This was way back in 1999 at the start of my professional career. This was the only second foreign bank I had got. But I had the courage of conviction to tell them I'll walk away. Not that I was wealthy, but I was healthy. The question is, if you have the courage of conviction to walk off, again they weighed it with the fact that if an auditor resigns way back in 1999, it was unheard at that time. But maybe in their country it could be a big thing, so they came back and supplied all the information I needed. It's simply your courage to stand up. I think being personal or financial interest will always be there. But how you balance this, if you have confidence in your abilities, काम मिल जाएगा. Self-review. If you have already done your own work earlier, and then you're sitting in value judgment over it if something goes wrong, I think have the courage to bring it out, correct it. ऐसा ना हो लेने के देने पड़ जाएंगे. So at times if it needs correction or it needs intimation to regulators. So there was one case where while auditing, we had one issue where the contingent liabilities made, the breakup was not done between others and DEF. So we gave the breakup in the current year and told the management to even do the breakup in the previous year. And somehow by oversight, we didn't check it because the person who was there thought it's the previous year, it's just a regrouping. So what, unfortunately, the bank did it, they jumbled it up. In the previous year, not in the current year which we have signed, the previous year which was signed by someone else where the breakup was not given. And unfortunately, the regulator caught it. And we had an issue. The regulator says it's a blunder. We'll take action against you. So our defense was this is not for the year. It has not affected any true and fair view of the current year which we have signed. It's in the previous year. It's a regrouping issue. It's an error. We admit the error. If we knew you want us to recast it, we'll recast it with a fresh signing. मैनेजमेंट को छोड़ो, जब भी मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर आती है तो सीए पहले आता है कि सीए ने साइन किया, हमने तो गलती की है बट उसने क्यों नहीं पकड़ी. These issues could happen and something which looks trivial, and there have been many cases where this may happen. It may not necessarily go to the disciplinary committee at that level, but it may go to the regulatory level at that stage. And the only thing which saves you is your integrity and your intent and the reputation which you have carried all along. So any regulator will do a back check on your firm, will do a back check on you as a person, and जो आपने सालों से जो मेहनत की है, जो अगर सच्चाई से काम किया है, I think that will help you. So it's your integrity, it's your personal values which will help you more than professional values at some point of time. And it's in a lot of cases, you get work. It's not because it's a B2B, B2C, it's an H to H, it's a human to human connect. I get work because someone likes me as a person. Someone likes me for being straightforward, someone likes me for being truthful, someone likes me for being honest. And that's what you are, and that's what is your, as they say, a unique value proposition, your unique selling proposition. That's your original, authentic you.
Name also matters, sir. Going for listing, then they say big 4 hour होगा तो मेरा, global level में they will
सो हम भी पुश आउट हुए थे, बट एवरी वन हैज़ इट्स मार्केट, सिंपल. उनको उनका जो करने दो. नाउ देर इज अ केस गोइंग फॉर द ग्लोबल फर्म विद द अलायंसेस टू कॉम्पीट अगेंस्ट द बिग फोर. कभी कभी कोई भी बिग फोर के पार्टनर्स है, सम ऑफ द पार्टनर्स इन अ बिग फोर हैव बीन आर्टिकल्स अंडर मी. सो टेक्निकली वो भी इंडियन ही है ना, वो भी यही मिट्टी से पला बड़ा है, यही पानी पिया है, यही ट्रेन के धक्के खाए हैं आर्टिकलशिप में. सो इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ टाइम व्हेन यू विल हैव नो इंडियन बैंक इज कॉम्पिटिंग विद द वर्ल्ड बैंक. समडे इट विल विद द मर्जर्स. सो एक दिन आएगा. एडवोकेसी, client promotion, compromising objectivity, familiarity, sympathy to client interest over a period of time, and this is very common. And unfortunately CA level पे नहीं होगा, employee level पे हो सकता है. And a lot of times issues have really happened, and we have been very careful at an early stage when issues were not bought out by the professionals because they were too close with the people who are there in the office, and they thought that if they would bring out a mistake, it will impair the promotion of some of the employees there, and this is not bought out. So familiarity is a real threat. ये theory में पढ़ने सही लगता है, but in practice this can be actually leading to your own people not bringing out issues which they should. इंटिमिडेशन बैंक ऑडिट्स में सभी ने फेस किया है. सो वी आर यूज्ड टू इट. टेक्निकली दीज आर सम ऑफ द थ्रेट्स. नहीं, ये सभी पे हमको हमारे कोर्स में डिटेल में सिखाना चाहिए हाउ टू ओवरकम दिस थ्रेट्स. या नहीं, बट आपको कैसे कैसे समझा कि ये सेल्फ रिव्यू, सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट और एडवोकेसी है? आपको क्वेश्चन दिया है, क्वेश्चन किसको पूछना है, वो कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड कर रहा है? नहीं, कैसे? Is he able to demonstrate? The ball is in his court. क्वेश्चनर पे जवाब दिया है वही, वो यस नो. तो अगर वो यस आप बोल रहे हो तो ही हैज टू एटलीस्ट डेमोन्स्ट्रेट बाय सम एक्ट्स ना कि उसका सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. सो टेक्निकली सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट सब जगह है सबका. So the question is कि अगर peer review assignment is not even like a bank branch audit, उससे भी कम टाइम है. अभी हम T20 का ज़माना में अगर बारिश हो गया तो 6 ओवर मिनिमम खेलते. ओके, या सो द पॉइंट इज उसके साथ जो बैठ के जिसको पीयर रिव्यू का तजुर्बा है, जो भी सीनियर पीयर रिव्यूअर है, वो जैसे, एंड आई एम नॉट गिविंग एन एग्जाम्पल टू डीमीन ये वो, बट एक लोकल ट्रेन का जो टिकट कलेक्टर है उसको शक्ल देख के समझता है जो टिकट लिया है या नहीं लिया है. तो आप जो पीयर रिव्यूअर है उसने इवॉल्व फर्म्स देखी है और उसने खुद के फर्म में वो सिस्टम्स प्रोसीजर्स क्रिएट किए हैं. वो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन देख के क्लियरली समझ जाता है वो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कभी बनाया है, whether that documentation is at the speed of the work being done या डॉक्यूमेंटेशन बाद में बना है? ठीक है, क्वेश्चन इज कितना डॉक्यूमेंटेशन अभी एआई ने बनाया है, कितना डॉक्यूमेंटेशन ने सीरियसली बनाया, उनको पता भी है कि क्या है. कुछ एक दो क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे वो कोई जवाब भी नहीं दे सकता है. The question is, a peer review is a constructive feedback. A peer review is not to find faults as such, but to enhance the quality. And the peer review is basically, I am his elder brother. भाई ये गलती है तो ये मत कर, ये suggestions है, ये कर ले. So, no peer reviewer will cause any harm to any firm unless it's so bad. And because now वो डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी और ये पीयर रिव्यूअर कौन था, उसको अगर प्रोसेसेस कुछ नहीं है एंड प्रोसेस में क्लीन चिट दिया तो उन लोगों को भी ले सकते हैं. इसके लिए द पीयर रिव्यूअर नाउ इट्स अ स्लाइटली मोर ऑनरस जॉब. अरे आपने उसको कंप्लीट प्रोसीजर्स ये वो में क्लीन चिट दिया है और कुछ हुआ, वो एनएफआरए ने उसके वर्किंग पेपर्स मांगे और वो वर्किंग पेपर्स डेमोन्स्ट्रेट ही नहीं कर सकता है, तो वो बोलता है आई एम पीयर रिव्यूड, एंड इफ ही टेक्स दैट एज अ डिफेंस इनडायरेक्टली इज ब्रिंगिंग यू इन द. सो इफ द एनएफआरए गाय कॉल्स यू, इज ही रॉन्ग?
No, but sir, in these guidelines, in the manual, there's nothing that the peer reviewer is subject to DC. There's nothing.
अरे मैं एनएफआरए बोल रहा हूँ, मैं डीसी नहीं. डीसी चलो छोड़ो, डोंट टेक द लिटरल वर्ड्स. हाँ अगर नाउ अगर कोई क्लाइंट है, रेगुलेटर आया, टेक अ बैंक में कोई गलती मिली, बैंक का फर्स्ट डिफेंस क्या है? ही डजंट से सॉरी आई मेड अ मिस्टेक. ऑडिटर ने भी वेट किया है, उसको पूछो पहले. सो अभी एनएफआरए के पास गया, अरे हमारा तो पीयर रिव्यू हुआ है, उसने तो हमको ग्रेड ए दिया है, AQMM में तो हमारा लेवल 4 है. देन चलो भाई पीयर रिव्यूअर आप भी आ जाओ, बैठो सामने, अभी बताओ उसको एक पेपर नहीं है, आपने उसको ग्रेड 4 क्यों दिया और इधर सब जगह यस क्यों दिया? डॉक्यूमेंटेशन देखा है, सीन ये फाइल देखा है, जो फाइल में फ्रॉड हुआ है वो फाइल का आपने चेक किया है और सब ओके किया है. आई एम सेइंग बुलाया नहीं है, हमारा अच्छा लक है, आगे कभी भी बुला सकता है. सो लेट्स बी प्रिपेयर्ड. सो अगेन the ethical standards apply to us also as far as we are doing our job. Simple.
Sir, there's a disconnect here. Like, as a peer reviewer, we are just reviewing. You gave a very good example कि मैं बड़ा भाई कुछ होता है, ठीक हो जाता, ठीक करता. And suppose he is being called by regulator, and the regulator finds something. But we are not going in, even if we select 10 samples, we are not going into the deepest thing in the peer review. We are going as per the question.
I agree.
Sir, there's a big disconnect.
फाइन, मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ,
Report also I say this is just a review opinion, and there may be certain other things which may not have.
I agree boss, let's not, what I'm saying is there is a fraud. Okay, I'm giving a realistic case study and this has happened and I know I don't want to take names. There's a fraud. उन्होंने डिफेंस करने के लिए वर्क पेपर्स मांगे, वर्क पेपर्स कुछ भी नहीं है and it's been peer reviewed. Now if that peer review पहचान का है, दोस्त है, बोलो भेज दो यार ऑफिस में, मैं साइन करता हूं, ऐसा अगर हुआ है तो गलत नहीं है. 99 लोगों ने नहीं किया है, बट जो एक लोग ने किया है वो तो गया ना, उसको कौन बचाएगा? सो वेयर इज ऑल दैट ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, इंटीग्रिटी इन दिस केस? सो many cases, and the first case where I was an auditor and I was called as a witness in a disciplinary committee was where the chartered accountant has certified the accounts knowingly that they were false, just to help the client who was his childhood friend. And उसको पता था, वो बोलता था जिस दिन ये पकड़ा जाएगा मेरे को कोई डिफेंस नहीं है, बट तू इतना बचपन का मेरा दोस्त है, मैं तेरे को ना भी नहीं बोल सकता हूँ. So it was not that he had any vested interest. He didn't get a single money out of it. He knew he would be a, but he helped a friend. उसका बचपन बोला तेरे लिए चल मैं वो रिस्क ले सकता हूँ. Now whether it is in your risk appetite or not, is for you to basically decide. सब familiar है, सब गए, हम battle hardened veterans है, simple. So if there is a conflict of interest, we disclose or decline. We provide fair, honest and constructive feedback. Respect the intellectual independence of the client. Ensure work is assessed fairly without bias. Avoid use of AI for report generation. This is very common. In one, अरे I agree, थोड़ा तो ये करो ना यार, वो AI का रॉकेट बॉकेट तो मत डालो ना उसमें. In one case, in one bank, the Reserve Bank pointed out, and this is that the concurrent auditor has used AI while replying, and that was his regulator ने comment मारा है. How would you disprove कि तुमने AI use नहीं किया, और उसने दिखाया AI का, ये देखो ये exact word, and it was there, and that firm was not continued going ahead. So while you may use AI smartly, at times if it's known somewhere, and I think there's a classic case of Deloitte which has come where they've used it in a report and they've paid some damages. Expertise and competency हमको है, again subjective. Avoid personal attacks, none of us do, but objectivity, confidentiality and mutual respect, I think that's fair, and all of us as peer reviewers, we are doing a great job. Thank you. So I don't know how many of us as peer reviewers and code of ethics में history पता है हमको. 1952 में amendment आया था which introduced professional misconduct for the first time. 1959 में वो फर्स्ट शेड्यूल एंड सेकेंड शेड्यूल था, तभी उस समय में वो सेकेंड शेड्यूल में हाई कोर्ट वुड हैव टेकन एक्शन. 1963 में वी गॉट द फर्स्ट कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट, सो प्रैक्टिकली 63 इयर्स हुए उसको. 63 इयर्स ओल्ड, मच एल्डर देन माय एज. 1976 में एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड्स कमिटी ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूट वाज फॉर्म्ड. द लास्ट कोड ऑफ एथिक्स वाज रिवाइज्ड July 1st, 2020, the 12th edition. The 13th edition exposure draft has been kept for comments till 26/11/25. It's over. लोगों ने comments दिए हैं, उसका क्या आगे हुआ, एक ग्रुप में वो डिस्कशन हो रहा था कि क्या हुआ उसका, बट अभी तक वो 13th edition आना है. 13th edition has 3 volumes. Volume 1 has 457 pages, Volume 2 has 193 and Volume 3 has 77. So total ये ऐड करोगे तो 727 pages है. At my age, difficult to read. I should thank the institute for calling me. So उस बहाने पढ़ना पड़ता है because people like them can ask me any question, तो मुझे पढ़ना पड़ता है. So I should again thank them. हाँ? अरे नहीं यार, seriously, अभी इट्स अ रेपुटेशन रिस्क. अभी वो उसने वो पता नहीं, उसने 800 में ये कभी दिया भी नहीं था. 800 है तो और रेपुटेशन रिस्क बढ़ता है. किधर ये 800 सेमिनार बात कर रहा है और क्या बात किया रहेगा पहले, ये इतना मेरा आंसर क्वेश्चन का आंसर नहीं दे सकता है. सो दिस इज व्हाट द एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड्स बोर्ड डज. ओके, देयर इज अ ग्लोबल एथिक्स डे ऑन 16th October, समथिंग वी आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ. ओके, वी शुड सेलिब्रेट दिस बॉस. हाँ, 16th October को ग्लोबल एथिक्स डे, वी शुड सेलिब्रेट वेन एवर इट कम्स. सब पीयर रिव्यूअर्स को यू शुड गिव अ ट्रीट. कर्म. So while you have SEBI, LODR and other standards, so this is our code of ethics. CAs in service don't even know that code of ethics applies to them. Blissfully unaware. They use chartered accountancy as, yes, I am a chartered accountant. They use a CA to get a job. But code of ethics है simple, again awareness issue. we say the gap is not in the knowing, the gap is in doing, the gap is also in the knowing. 999 sections starting from 100, so 900 section hai. These are the proposed changes. There was volume 3 which was a case law referencer in an earlier case, now that's separate. So volume 1 to 3, the volume, there's a new chapter on ethics standards for sustainability assurance. No-CLAR provisions have been made applicable to all listed entities and their material subsidies. The limit of indebtedness has been increased from 1 lakh to 5 lakhs. Again, still very poor. Limit on specified number of audit assignments, and professional accountant word hai is replaced by chartered accountant. हाँ तो वही है, but वो वही क्या है. Then the use and designation and manner of printing letterheads, visiting cards has undergone a complete change in this. Guidelines on ethical issues, UDIN, tenders, जो logo use करने का है. There's a detailed guideline for networking of Indian CA from जो 27, it's alliance guidelines, networking guidelines, guidelines for networking, again with a lead firm concept, and each of these has an appendix and an annexure. So, huh? With some clauses. So to end, ethics is for everyone, every time. The T stands for transparency, trust and truthfulness. The H is honesty and humility. I is integrity. The C is courage and conviction. Courage, I feel, is the number one here. And stand, speak, call a spade a spade.
Slide is number 1. I tell you, the entire thing is.
So next time अगर लेट हुआ और मुझे बुलाओ 5 ही मिनट दो, ये स्लाइड दिखा देते. ठीक है, थैंक यू. So one, I am a professional speaker, and a professional speaker is not one who is a professional and who speaks. A professional is chartered accountants who are professionals. A speaker who once given the mic just goes on because he loves his voice, and the audience भले सो गए ये वो उसको पता नहीं चलता है, but when I said 4-5, 4-5.